Welcome back to the Padilla Family Homestead. We are here for another episode of Tea Time with Jen. I have my tea, so grab your cup of tea. Tonight's lavender chamomile, which is perfect for today's topic. We are talking about blood pressure. I have gone through a journey with high blood pressure, and I want to tell you a little bit about my history, getting to the point of having high blood pressure. Right after diagnosis, dealing with it, treating it, all the things, and then after where we are now. So I want to preface this by saying my journey is just my journey. I'm not giving medical advice. I am not a doctor. Don't do anything with your medication, your diet, any of that stuff without doing research for you, because everybody's bodies are completely different. The reasons why we have high blood pressure can be different, and there's a lot of things that can cause it. So I'm just going to tell you my history a little bit and the unexpected lessons that I have learned from it and how that's impacted my life and how that coincides with intentionally living and so forth. This is very good. Okay, so I was diagnosed with high blood pressure beginning of 2023, but there's a journey to getting here. So I'm going to go back a little bit. So I don't remember ever having high blood pressure most of growing up or anything like that. I will say through most of my adult life, 20s and on, anytime I got sick and was at the ER or had to go into the doctor or anything like that, my blood pressure was usually 140/90. But when I wasn't sick, it wasn't. I was probably like 120s somethings over 80 somethings. But anytime I went in and got recorded, that's what it was. But it was expected because of the situation going on in each one of the circumstances. So we're going to go over a few different things. In 2019, actually, let's go before that. I've had a lot of dental issues. These are my dentures. So I've had all of my teeth out. And there's been a lot of different reasons. There was a lot of different health stuff that went on. I inherited not great teeth. And then I had some health stuff going on. I had to go on a liquid diet, and then I had to go on a soft food diet and that soft food. Liquid was like 6 months. Soft food was like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And that really, I didn't do it well. So the lack of nutrients, 2 years later, my teeth started falling out, all my dental work. So, I went through a lot of different dental surgeries and different things. I'm saying that because I battled infections for a very long time. Anybody who knows me in real life, like around, who was around during that time knows the battles that I went through and how much I battled infections. And when I finally got my teeth out, which I'll go over that a little bit, my health started really changing because I wasn't fighting. My body wasn't fighting things the same way anymore. So I think the dental had a lot of stuff to do with, and long-term infections had a lot to do with my body responding now the way it does to things. And then in 2019, I messed up my leg. When my stepmom passed away that summer, and she came and stayed with us right before she passed away. And when I was helping her up and things like that, I felt something pop behind my knee. And so I kind of just babied it. It wasn't excruciating pain. It hurt. It felt like a pulled muscle or something. So I just kind of babied it. And as soon as I started feeling like I didn't need to baby it anymore, I was getting up and getting moving. It sometimes would twinge and hurt and stuff. I didn't realize how much I was babying it though till a few years later. But I went through and I really rested, tried to let that heal as much as I could, and then work through some of it. I'm definitely a part of the suck it up buttercup generation and just push through. And so that happened in the end of summer of 2019. Well, in January of 2020, my daughter got sick. And so most of 2020, a huge chunk of 2020, when she was over at her house, she'd need help getting up and so forth. So I was doing a lot of lifting at that point in time. And then in the end of 2020, my husband got injured, and he had a hernia and needed help. I needed to do most of the lifting around the house. Plus, in 2021, after he had his surgery, he needed help up and so forth. And so that was a pretty big, like, there was a lot of physical demanding things. I'd like to point out, aside from the physically demanding, throughout 2019, 2020, and 2021, there was a lot of emotionally demanding things. In 2019, I had quit my job and I became a stay-at-home mom. It was perfect timing to be home to help deal with all the things. And then in 2021, I ended up with the last of my teeth out. It was right before my husband, it was actually his birthday that year. Like, he went back to work, shortly, like right after I had my teeth out. And, so I had my last night out and had dentures. I have dentures, and, my health started to improve a lot at that point in time. I ended up going back to work for about 9-10 months, somewhere in there. And my work was physically demanding at first because I started back in the store, and then I went back into HR, and there was it was high stress. It was a high stress position, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I had worked high stress a lot. So that winter we got sick. We ended up with the big C over New Year's in the 2021 going into 2022. And that really, we were pretty sick for a little bit there. And then it took me a little bit to recover. I had gallbladder issues previously, like years before, like even before my husband and I got together. We got together in 2016. Like, I had gallbladder issues years ago. And they did this test and they saw that my gallbladder didn't drain super fast. I didn't have gallstones or anything like that. But it didn't drain super fast. So I had kind of had some gallbladder pain before. But that January, February, somewhere in there, the end of January, beginning of February, I got really sick again, and I was in a lot of pain. And my blood pressure, when I went in for the big C, and then I went in to get checked and found out my gallbladder was having issues, at that time, at the beginning of 2022, my blood pressure was, not good. It was, I want to say 150 something, but my bottom number was like 120 or close to 120. It was like really close. It was like, it wasn't a good number. And so I ended up, this was going to be a long haul situation. I had just gotten back to work. I'd been there 9 months. They needed somebody who was going to be there, and be available to do things. And I was not in the position to be able to do so. And so I ended up quitting my job again and staying home and dealing with that. Interestingly enough, my blood pressure went back to normal the day after I quit my job. which I was not expecting at all. So, stress had a whole lot to do with it. We managed the gallbladder stuff until I had surgery that April, with diet, and really was very careful about what I was eating, and was able to control a lot of the pain and so forth by just watching what I ate. But my blood pressure went back to normal. Had the surgery, my blood pressure was fine that whole year. And I want to preface again, because I'm sure some of my old coworkers have my channel and I am friends with them on social media and so forth. I loved my job, and I think my body couldn't handle the job, which is why my blood pressure was up. It wasn't able to handle the stress at the time. And so it's not that the job was the issue. It's my body couldn't handle the job. And sometimes I'm learning that about myself, and that'll come out more later on this story. Sometimes it's not the thing that you're doing that is the issue. Sometimes it's how you're responding to it. And so had my gallbladder out that April of 2022 and was fine. During that time, though, I'm going to bring up the leg again. I was on painkillers for the first few days after the surgery, and I was trying to be really good about walking up and down the stairs. They had mentioned, like, you need to stay moving. You don't want to move too much, but you want to stay moving because you don't want blood clots and so forth. So, we had 2 bathrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom downstairs, and I was upstairs. But I would go down the stairs to go to the bathroom and then back up the stairs, because that was my way of making sure that I was getting blood moving and so forth. Well, when I came off the pain meds from that surgery, I want to say my surgery was like on a Wednesday, and I came off the pain meds on Saturday. And it was Norco. And my leg hurt so bad. I had a heartbeat in it. It was horrible. I had so much pain. It was that same leg that I had messed up before, but it was in such a way and behind the knee that I was so positive that I had a blood clot. We ended up going in, getting everything checked. I did not have a blood clot. I was totally fine. I just had re-injured my leg going up and down the stairs when I was on the pain medicine, because I wasn't babying it. I wasn't paying attention to it like I would if it was twinging. And so I had really messed up my knee again. And so I kind of tried to really baby it as much as I could. And at the beginning of 2023, I had gotten so bad over that winter, like the 2022 to 2023 winter. I couldn't sleep on my left side. Everything is like, I was not getting good sleep at all, because I couldn't. Every time I rolled, it would hurt. Touching it hurt. Like, everything was hurting. It was up and down my leg. Sometimes it would affect all the way down to my toes, sometimes up to my back, but for the most part, it was around that knee area and the upper part of my leg. So I go into the doctor about my leg. And she touches a few things and decides it's an IT band issue and wants me to go do physical therapy. But she was concerned about my blood pressure. It was 150 over like 96 or something like that. And so she was really focused on that. And I'm like, every time I go to the doctor, it's high, like, because there's something going on. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm not sleeping. It's high. She goes, I just want you to monitor it. So I went and got a blood pressure cuff, and I monitored my blood pressure a couple times a day. Actually about 3 times a day, I think, at that point, for that entire week. And I had to call back and tell her what my blood pressure was. Every day, my blood pressure was getting worse it was going higher and higher and higher. And it would go up a little bit and then go down, then it go up again. And the more it was doing that, because she wanted to put me on medicine and I did not want to do medicine. I was very anti going on the medicine. And so I was stressing out about getting on the medicine. And so every time I'm taking my blood pressure, it's going up. It was up into the 160s. And I was really struggling with this. So when I went back to the doctor the next week, I went ahead and I talked to her. I go, here's the deal. I don't want to have a heart attack. I want to deal with what's going on. But I don't really want to be on medicine the rest of my life. I want the opportunity to be able to come off of the medicine. And so this was a big, this was a deal breaker for me. I had to be able to get onto something that I can get off of. And she was like, get that. You may have to stay on it if you can't figure out how to get it under control. This is what you need to do. And she didn't think I was going to do it. Her husband was my husband's doctor. And I go, I just want you to understand, because my husband just got off of his insulin at this point in time, and was working towards getting off of the Ozempic at the time. And I go, I'm like, that is my husband. We will do whatever changes we have to do. If there's diet, if there's exercise, if there is whatever it is, I will do what I have to do to get off this medicine. Because I don't want to be stuck on medicine my whole life. And so she kind of didn't buy it completely, but she goes, okay, so this is the one I'll give you. And she gave me Losartan, and I think it was the 25 milligram. And so I just took one pill a day, and it eventually started working in helping, and my blood pressure started coming down, and I could feel a difference in how I felt. And I started learning what my body felt like out of stress and in stress, right? Because I had to pay attention to it at this point. I never paid attention to that before. I just pushed through. I didn't want to know what my body felt like out of stress and in stress. I just felt and just went. So let me take another sip. So I'm going to physical therapy. I'm cutting my sodium at that point down to 1,500 milligrams of sodium or less a day. She said it would be great if you could stay closer to the 500 milligram, but definitely you have to have at least 500, but if you can stay under the 1,500. So I went hardcore. I looked up everything. I looked up how much sodium is in a carrot. I looked up how much sodium is in beets. So basically I had to be careful how much potassium I took, because Losartan is a potassium pill. And I learned that the things that are lower sodium usually have higher potassium in them, and found this thing. So while I'm going through this food thing, I'm also going to physical therapy for my leg. And at physical therapy one time, after I'd been going for a few weeks, she was trying to have me do this exercise and wanted me to put all my weight on my left leg. And when I did, I didn't feel good. I'm like, I feel like my blood pressure is spiking. And so they took my blood pressure at the physical therapy place, and my blood pressure was like 170 something over it's like 113 or something like that. And so she's like, we need to stop. We cannot continue for the day. And I can't see you again unless you go to the doctor and figure out what's going on. So I go to the doctor, and my doctor's like, that doesn't happen, basically. And I go, I'm telling you, I put my weight on my left leg and my blood pressure spiked. And so she goes, well, let's recreate it right here. Okay. And so I stood up in the office. She had the blood pressure cuff on me. I stood up in the office, and I stood on that leg, and within less than 30 seconds, my blood pressure spiked up to 170 something over 113 or 116 there. And she was like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, it didn't make sense. And she's going through how things are connected and so forth. She's the only thing that I can see that would be causing that is a kidney issue. And so we started going through that route. Well, at least I felt like I wasn't like screwing in my head about this right this minute. And so I was given the clear to continue with physical therapy, just to not put all my weight on my left leg, which was crazy. So then I had to go through an MRI, and there was nothing wrong. I went through x-rays, there was nothing wrong. I went to go see a kidney specialist. And the kidney specialist at this point, now this has taken a little bit of time to go through all these doctor's appointments. The kidney specialist was the most eye-opening appointment. My kidneys were fine. There was nothing wrong with them. But she made a comment, 2 comments in there that were very interesting. First of all, she asked if I ate black licorice. And I said, yes, I love black licorice. Actually, I found this cool little natural one. I was getting it from Azure Standard. It has like better ingredients in it. And she goes, well, black licorice is actually known for like, it raises your blood pressure. And I was like, that's like my candy of choice the last few months. And so I wasn't helping myself at all with my black licorice. The other thing that she mentioned was basically my blood pressure, because I was dumbfounded, and I explained what the doctor had said, and I go, why is my blood pressure spiking then? It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of scary. And we were going through all the things, and she goes, really, but what it came down to is in my head. And I go, you cannot tell me it's in my head because my blood pressure spiked. She goes, no, that's not what I mean. She goes, you don't trust your leg. Your leg has been hurting for multiple years. You have babied it and you have not given it the support, and it doesn't have to be strong. There's no trust when it comes to your leg. And so just like any other type of stress can cause blood pressure to go up, not trusting your leg became a huge stressor for you. You didn't believe that your leg was going to support you. And so it really highly stressed you out, and that's why your blood pressure went up. I was like, so you're telling me this is basically all because it's not in my head in a bad way. It's in my head. Like, I'm making it this way. And she goes, basically, yes. Because I had to do a blood pressure test where I took the blood pressure home, and it did it like every half hour or something like that, all day long and all night long for 24 hours. And my blood pressure overall, my score was fine. I had spikes, but then it went lower. I was on the losartan. She said to stay on the losartan at that point in time. But the key that came out of that appointment was what was the issue with my blood pressure. And it's how I responded to stress. My body no longer handled stress well. Whether it ever did or not, I have no clue. But it really didn't at this point. And all the pieces started to connect. So my blood pressure was getting worse. I was getting sicker the more I focused on my blood pressure. Go figure. And so that's why that first week it was going up like crazy, is because I was so stressed out about, I didn't want to go on medicine. Now all of a sudden I'm paying attention to my blood pressure. And now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. This is going to mean this is going to happen. And I have all of these worst case scenarios that I'm trying to speak truth over, that I've been working on learning how to speak truth over into situations. And it's still like trying to figure that aspect out. So then, I really start paying attention to what triggers the blood pressure. And usually it was stressful situations. Caffeine does spike my blood pressure. It's pretty quickly, it'll spike my blood pressure. So that's why I do decaf coffee. I can count on one hand how many times I have had caffeine in the last year, because I really am trying to be good about not spiking it. So in so that was 2023, right? I'd gone in and done all this stuff, gone through. So by summer of 2023, I knew that my issues were pretty much in my head. And so I finally had to have a conversation with my leg and say, I'm going to trust you, right? And that turned a corner with the physical therapy on helping it get better. It turned a corner in how I dealt with all kinds of situations. My blood pressure, for the most part, would stay in good numbers. And so that fall, we lost our medical insurance. So that summer, we knew it was going to be a possibility that we were going to lose our medical insurance. And since I had already had the breakthrough in figuring out what was going on and all the things, we talked to my doctor and said, basically, we're probably going to lose the insurance. So I go, what, I need to know if I can come off of the losartan. She goes, I'd like you to stay on it for longer, but if you have to come off of it, you're on the lowest dose. You're already weaned off. There's nothing you really have to do to wean it off. And she told me how to kind of like go through and get off of it. Then I went and I just wanted to double check with the pharmacist because I like to get all my ducks in a row. And I talked to the pharmacist and I checked with them. But what I did do is she gave me a prescription pretty much for a year at that point. And I kept filling the prescriptions and I stayed on. I paid out of pocket because it was inexpensive for the generic losartan. And so I was able to keep buying them. And I stayed on the losartan all the way until I think the beginning of February was when it was. The end of January, beginning of February of 2024. I stayed on the losartan. I was really in a good place with the blood pressure. It was staying pretty consistently low. We had gotten on to, I was very scared about getting off of it and then having to go to the hospital because I had researched on Dr. Google Pants and heard all these possibilities of things that could go wrong. And so we had gotten on to Covered California. And so we had insurance at that point. If something were to happen, I could go to the hospital, not have an issue, and so forth. So in February, I did what both the doctor and the pharmacist said, and I went through the steps, and I went 8 days without taking the blood pressure medicine. And I had a couple of spikes that were not bad, but they were expected spikes. And so I didn't let it stress me out because I had all this knowledge and I knew what to expect. And so I purposely had my days be calmer days and all the things. And I successfully got off the losartan in the beginning of February of 2024. So we are almost a year without being on losartan. Now, I still filled it for a few months to where I could have it just in case. Now I'd like to point out some things that happened since I got off the blood pressure medicine. Okay. So February got off the losartan. We had a power outage during that, right afterwards with a big storm. To where we were trying to get ice so we didn't lose all this food, and we didn't really have much of an income coming in, and trying to figure it all out. So my husband is only on workers' comp at this point because his job had closed down. So he's only on workers' comp. I didn't have a job. And We have a storm with the powers going out. Shortly after that, like we got it back up and so forth. My did spike during that storm, which was expected driving around in a storm trying to find ice and so forth. So then, in March, the end of March, we find out that his unemployment gets cut, and very unexpectedly. And we ended up we had to make the decision whether we were going to move or not out to Arkansas. And so we made the decision that we were going to move. And so here I am 1 month off of, or a month, almost 2 months, off of blood pressure meds. I've had these situations happen. I now have 30 days. My leg is not completely healed, but was doing a lot better. And I'm having to, in 30 days, get rid of 80% of our belongings, get everything packed up, figure out the logistics of everything, and move across country. We move across country and make that trip, which I was swelling really bad in the car. That's the other thing I didn't mention. I had some swelling over the last 15 years in the summer mainly. But which my mom swelled and so forth. Sometimes during hormones I swell more, whatever. But during this period of time, I started swelling a lot. I was swelling a lot during that month of April, where I was getting everything ready. I was working a lot. My body was physically hurting really bad, to where by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, I can barely walk. I laid down. I stay horizontal. I slept. I wake up in the morning. I could move again, and I do it again. Those things are not conducive to good blood pressure numbers, but I still stayed pretty good. And I'm going to explain why in a second. So we get out here to Arkansas, and we have humidity. We have different type of heat because it's humid heat. Eating different foods, different things. Those first 2 months, that first month especially, was really bad. I was really swollen to the point where I was getting very concerned, and I actually almost went back on to the blood pressure meds. They'd also given me a diuretic. I had never taken the diuretic the entire time. I did that more naturally. And so, because she was concerned a little bit about the swelling, but I was able to, for the most part, keep it down. But I was very tempted that first month here to get back on the blood pressure medicine and to take the diuretic, because I was very nervous about where I was in my how much I was swelling. So I spent a lot of time with my feet up, propped up over my heart. In this time frame, my blood pressure overall was still good. I had that first month when I was swelling more, I had some higher numbers. I was bouncing like 145 over 90. But it, for the most part, has gone down. Now, I can tell when it's going up. I could tell I got accidentally spiked with caffeine. I think the coffee shop did not give me decaf. I can feel it after I drink it. There's certain instances where I can tell now where my blood pressure is. I can tell if I'm having a rough day with it. I can tell if I'm feeling really stressed out, if I'm not taking time to rest, and so forth. And so, when I got, we'll go there yet. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things I did to help support my body and dealing with stress, because stress is my killer. That is what I cannot handle. And there's been a lot of stress going on. So how do I handle that? Have a decent blood pressure, and to where I'm not needing the medication. And how am I filtering that stress? There's a few tips. Tulsi tea. This is just one of the natural things I do. Tulsi holy basil tea is amazing. So you can get it in tea form, or you can just get it as bulk Tulsi holy basil. And I get it 1 pound from Azure Standard for, I think it's about $20. And that is about 1 gallon of loose leaf basil. And you can take that and put it into those the papery tea bags or into a metal mesh tea diffuser or whatever. And holy basil is an adaptogen. An adaptogen helps your body adapt to whatever is going on around it to deal with the stressors. So lavender is super helpful, but holy basil was very successful for me. I felt comfortable drinking it as a tea. I can add a little honey if I wanted to. I actually like it plain, but it's easy. It's easy to have. I just drink a cup of tea and I'm good. So adaptogens, including them into my diet, was huge. I really realized that I went too low of sodium when I was doing the low sodium diet. Now, what it did make me aware of is how much sodium is in our food and how much is in it when we're eating out and so forth. Too much sodium will help you to retain water. Retaining water adds weight, all of those things make your heart work harder and can mess up your blood pressure. So those are things you need to pay attention to, but you need sodium in your life. You need to have salt. So, I stopped doing the 500. I went more to 1500 to 200. 1500 to 2000 milligrams. I have days now where I'll go over that, but for the most part, our cooking changed so much. I don't add a lot of salt to our food. I'm pretty careful with that. When I eat out, I try to make wise decisions and balance what I'm eating and watch that. Not drinking a lot of sodas, trying to really make sure I have that water. But I noticed that the change in the sodium level was not what affected my blood pressure the same way. My issues are stress and caffeine. So I really went to decaf because I love coffee and it made me very sad to not have coffee. That's not going to help anything. So doing decaf, I was able to get a same flavor to one that I liked, and can easily have coffee. I also realized that anything with carrageenan in it caused me to swell. Anytime I had it, I swelled. So I changed my coffee creamers. Anything, I cannot get heavy whipping cream or ice cream or anything like that with a carrageenan in it. If I do, I risk swelling. There's something in it. I don't know what the deal is, but my body reacts to it. It was the common ingredient in the stuff that I was doing. And so that took a lot of looking at ingredients labels. Thankfully, my daughter's gluten issue, my husband's sugar issue had me very used to looking at food labels. So I added in the adaptogens. I'm drinking more water, eating less salt for the most part than what I was doing. I was doing a very unhealthy amount of salt, I'm sure, before. And then I had to learn how to deal with the stress. And this one, there's not a perfect answer for this. And the reason why people stress are going to be very different. I learned I can't. Okay, so I learned that it's hard enough to control the stressors in my own life and the problems in my own life that I can't take on everybody else's. So, not my circus, not my monkeys became a common phrase, and it just I can't do it. And letting people figure their stuff out. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have conversations and talk to people and so forth, but I'm not carrying the burden. I can help support somebody else with their burden without taking the load onto me myself. My world doesn't stop. My world doesn't freeze and freak out because of somebody else's problems. I can't. I physically cannot allow that to happen. And so that is something that was a learning curve. And it's just, just can't take it on. And I basically, once I make my mind up on something, it helps, because I'm like, oh yeah, I cannot do this. And so I really limit where my hands get involved. I also really focused on, am I being driven by fear and anxiety, or am I being driven by peace? And I've talked about that before on this channel a lot. But there's a lot of things we do that are fear driven. FOMO is a huge thing, the fear of missing out, or the fear of being left behind, the fear of something happening to someone, the fear of not having stuff. And so one of the things that helped me through this whole process was learning the homesteading skills, learning preparedness, stocking a pantry, stocking stuff. So I took stressors away, possible future stressors away, by taking actionable steps that were not stressors to do, and it stopped something from stressing me out. I didn't have to stress over where the next meal was going to come from. I didn't have to stress on how we were going to do things. I tried to learn to plan ahead and to look at things, but also to be flexible. The other thing, which was in a previous video a couple of times, was about letting go of the things that I can't control. If it's not in my realm to control, I had to learn how to let it go. I had to learn how to let go of my teenage daughter who turned into an adult age. I had to learn how to let go of expectations. I had to learn how to let go of certain dreams and so forth, while at the same time still dreaming, just the previous video. But I had to learn how to do all this stuff, because these things can stress me out. If I have a concern over something, I will start to get anxious or worry, or I think about all the possible what ifs. Sorry, I had a visitor at the door. So I will get concerned about all the what ifs. That is how my brain works, is to go through the different avenues and the different possibilities and all the different things. And I have to try to turn that off sometimes, or really speak truth over all the paths. I've also had to learn how to not be a perfectionist on certain things, because perfection usually is also not attainable. Life isn't going to be perfect. Life is messy. Life has all kinds of things. I mean, I'm in situations right now that are full of stressors all over the place. Going back to work was a huge, I was very worried about that, especially with how my feet were doing at the time. I was very worried. I actually, though, God is so good. He is just so good. I landed the perfect job. Within 2 weeks, they had approached me twice about becoming a manager. And I'm like, I don't want to be a manager. I need low stress. I need blah, blah, blah. And we ended up sitting down and really talking about what it looks like at that company to be a manager and the difference and so forth. And I needed the medical benefits as well. So I quickly moved into full-time, and then was slowly getting trained to be the manager. And then within a couple months got the assistant manager position. And it is probably one of the most low stress management positions I have had. Um, and the difference is the culture is Christ-centered. Um, and it's just amazing. So, that helped, being in the right spot and finding the right job. And then I have the situation of a shared household, and we're staying in somebody else's house. And so we've talked about this before. Anytime you mix families, there's always going to be little things. We all have our pet peeves. We all have our things. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just means that there's automatically, anytime you add a new human into the mix, there can be stressors that come up. And so learning how to balance that, luckily, my friend and I have been friends for 30 plus years. And so finding that balance in communication and listening, and not just hearing, but listening to the root cause, and also understanding that we both have different needs, which is awesome. So we're also looking at what comes next. Like, are we going to buy? Are we going to rent? What are we going to do? Like, there's so many stressors involved in all the things. And so one of the things my husband's doing to try to really help me out is I don't rest well. That's the other thing that actually is huge when it came to the blood pressure, is resting. And it's physically resting, but mentally and emotionally resting. And that has been something that I have always struggled with. And now, if I'm having a hard time with it and I'm not doing a good job resting, he'll swoof me away. Swoof, I don't know. Pick me up and take me away on a drive for the day on a Sunday. And we'll drive around and look at areas and just be peaceful. And I'll almost fall asleep in the car. Like, he's just so good to me. He knows when I need a day that's down. He's like, when I was trying to push and do the garden and do the videos and work and everything, get everything balanced, he's like, you're not allowed in the garden today. You have to take a chill day. And I'm like, no, but I need to. I have this list. I have this huge to-do list that is looming over me. I can't rest. And the thing is that it's good to rest. That list is always going to be there. There's always going to be something. As soon as you take one thing off, another 5 things go on. And so you have to learn how to be able to rest. And that is something I have really, really been working on. For my diet, I try to really add in anti-inflammatory. We are not doing good with our food right now, and we've been doing a lot more eating out, which is not great. But we're going to double down when we get our place, and really, really focus on some good anti-inflammatory style foods. We did just make a new addition, which I'll be sharing in a video at some point. And it's made a huge impact on me. So we got a grounding mat. I like this thing. It's helped a lot. It's helped with physical pain. It's helped with relaxing. It's helped with being able to sleep more throughout the night. I was waking up a whole lot throughout the night. And it's helped a ton. It helps with inflammation. It helps with balancing your energy, I guess, because it's basically like walking outside barefoot. And I've talked about that before, how much I really love, like, working in the garden is peaceful to me. And one of the reasons is my hands are in the dirt. I like to walk around barefoot. Not out here as much, but I like to walk around barefoot, and I like to have my hands in the dirt. It's centering to me. We have so many electric things going on around us, and this has been a great addition into my routine, is to have a grounding sheet on the bed at night and getting some really good solid sleep at night. I'm actually dreaming, and I know, I guess you normally dream. I just never remembered them, but I actually remember some of them now. And I'm not waking up as much to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. I'm not staying awake, which is awesome. So it's huge. I will be doing a video about that in the future. This video is already long enough. I'm not going to go completely into that. I will put a link down below. I actually reached out to them because of the difference I have seen. We've been using it for 3 weeks. We've been using it for 3 weeks, and I reached out to them to see what kind of affiliate program they have, because I really, really like these things. Anyway, so I'll talk about that later. But for me, my blood pressure has been learning stress and how to handle stress. And I think stress is one of the biggest things in the world right now that's a huge killer. We're stressed about finances. We're stressed about our kids. We're stressed about our food. We're stressed about how we're going to keep up and do everything. And if two parents have to work, or there's just so many things in life that there are to stress about. And if you can learn how to breathe and to not stress as much, that's going to be a huge benefit in your life. And it takes so much intentionality to do that. Like, I cannot stress how much I have to focus and, okay, I'm not going to stress. I'm going to relax. And I'm like, how am I relaxing? My back is so tight. My arms are tight. I'm like, okay, breathe, feel the blood flow, and, it's not a surprise. I get tension headaches and all the things throughout all the years. And there's so many things that could have lined up too. And there's so much stress that my body has gone through over the last plenty of years that it's like, I'm tapped out on stress. I can't deal with it. And so, if you are battling blood pressure, or just battling stress, blood pressure could be coming. But if you're battling blood pressure, the biggest advice I can give is to really evaluate everything. Really look at the nitty-gritty. And you can't bite off everything at once. It takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes really looking at stuff. But if you have at the center and the core, your foundation, what is important, and you weigh your priorities according to that foundation and what's important, then it's going to be easier for you to move forward and make those decisions and to not stress about things. I will have another video coming up on to prep or not to prep, because I'm a huge component of how much stress that has taken out of my life, prepping. And just, there's so many avenues of this when it comes to relationships, when it comes to all kinds of things. You have a choice whether you're offended or not. You have a choice whether you're going to engage or not. You have a choice whether or not you're like, I have to show up at every event and do everything. Or do you know what? No, I need to take a day and be in bed. That takes a lot for me. And I finally got to that point where I'm having a day and I need to breathe, or I know the next couple of days are going to be super stressful. I need to just be. And those have been the biggest things. And so I am living proof that you can stress yourself out so much that when you stand on one leg, your blood pressure can spike to crazy levels. So learn how to control your stress. And that's, I hope this video helps in some way, that it makes sense in some way. I was back and forth on how to tell this story because I'm like, I have to give a lot of backstory. I don't have like 50 million hours to sit down and tell like every nitty gritty thing. But there's a lot of things that you can do, but those are my key things. Those are my key things that I would suggest to add adaptogens. In the Tulsi tea is amazing. Add in things that bring you calm and peace. Follow the peace, don't follow the fear. Let things go, not my circus, not my monkeys. And learning how to support without taking over somebody else's burdens. Because that's huge, and our society does not teach that the same way. They just don't. So that's it. So I am almost a year in, no blood pressure meds, still doing pretty good. I have some days where it goes a little higher and I just need to chill. And but for the most part, I'm getting through this very stressful period of life. Not super stressed. So I think that's pretty successful. But that's it. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you have any comments or whatever, go ahead and drop them. I love seeing the comments and questions, and I will respond. I try to respond to just about everything. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you back here for the next video.